it's not balanced. It's the Mike 92.1.
Past the hour. Rebecca Solnit is the writer, and TomDispatch.com is the source. There's so much of it. We could talk about the assault and rape of a 73-year-old in Manhattan Central Park last September, or the recent rape of a 4-year-old and an 83-year-old in Louisiana, or the New York City policeman who was arrested in October for what appeared to be serious plans to kidnap, rape, cook, and eat a woman, any woman, because the hate wasn't personal. Though maybe it was for the San Diego man who actually killed and cooked his wife in November, and the man from New Orleans who killed, dismembered, and cooked his girlfriend in 2005. Those are all exceptional crimes, but we could also talk about quotidian assaults, because though a rape is reported only every 6.2 minutes in this country, the estimated total is perhaps 5 times as high, which means that there may be very nearly a rape a minute in the United States. It all adds up to tens of millions of rape victims. We could talk about high school and college athlete rapes or campus rapes, to which university authorities have been appallingly uninterested in responding in many cases, including that high school in Steubenville, Ohio, Notre Dame University, Amherst College, and many others. We could talk about the escalating pandemic of rape, sexual assault, and sexual harassment in the United States military, where Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta estimated that there were 19,000 sexual assaults on fellow students in 2010 alone, and that the great majority of assailants got away with it. Though the 4-star General Jeffrey Sinclair was indicted in September for what was called a slew of sex crimes against women. Never mind workplace violence, let's go home. So many men murder their partners and former partners that we have well over 1,000 homicides of that kind a year, meaning that every 3 years the death toll tops 9/11's casualties, though no one declares a war on this particular terror. Another way to put it, the more than 11,766 corpses from domestic violence homicides since 9/11 exceed the number of deaths of victims on that day and all American soldiers killed in the so-called War on Terror. If we talked about crimes like these and why they are so common, we'd have to talk about what kinds of profound change this society or this nation, or nearly every nation, needs. If we talked about it, we'd be talking about masculinity or male roles or maybe patriarchy, and we don't talk much about that. Instead, we hear that American men commit murder-suicides at the rate of about 12 a week because the economy is bad, though they also do it when the economy is good. Or that those men in India murdered the bus rider because the poor resent the rich, while other rapes in India are explained by how the rich exploit the poor. And then there are those ever-popular explanations, mental problems and intoxicants. And for jocks, head injuries. The latest spin is that lead exposure was responsible for a lot of our violence, except that both genders are exposed, and one commits most of the violence. The pandemic of violence always gets explained as anything but gender. Anything but what would seem to be the broadest explanatory pattern of all. Someone wrote a piece about how white men seem to be the ones who commit mass murders in the United States, and the mostly hostile commenters only seem to notice the white part. It's rare that anyone says what this medical study does, even if in the direst way possible. Quote, being male has been identified as a risk factor for violent criminal behavior in several studies, as have exposure to tobacco smoke before birth, having antisocial parents, and belonging to a poor family. End quote. Still, the pattern is plain as day. We could talk about this as a global problem, looking at the epidemic of assault, harassment, and rape of women in Cairo's Tahrir Square that has taken away the freedom they celebrated during the Arab Spring and led some men there to form defense teams to help counter it. Or the persecution of women in public and private in India, from eve-teasing, so-called, to bride burning, to honor killings in South Asia and the Middle East. Or the way that South Africa has become a global rape capital with an estimated 600,000 rapes last year. Or how rape has been used as a tactic and so-called weapon of war in Mali, Sudan, and the Congo, as it was in the former Yugoslavia. Or the pervasiveness of rape and harassment in Mexico, and the femicide in Juarez, or the denial of basic rights for women in Saudi Arabia, and the myriad sexual assaults on immigrant domestic workers there, or the way that the Dominique Strauss-Kahn case in the United States revealed what impunity he and others had in France. And it's only for lack of space I'm leaving out Britain and Canada and Italy, with its ex-prime minister known for his orgies with the underaged, and I'm leaving out Argentina and Australia and so many other countries. More when we come back.